What's up, CHFFL? It's finally time for the 2020 Outlook videos. I'm doing a little bit different format. Previously, I've done 3 teams of video and done 4 videos. I'm going to try and hit everybody in just 2, so 6 people per video. We've been a little bit delayed, and a lot of that is because I'm busy, and a lot is because we're unsure about the season, obviously. I'm not sure if it's going to get delayed, eventually get canceled, but now that it's almost August, we have to press forward anyway, and we need to start picking all our dates. For my outlooks this year, I'll of course be using value calculation, which if you haven't seen my last video where I talk about how I'm getting these numbers, I really recommend it. Pretty proud of that one. The units, of course, are meaningless, but just know that the league average is 300, so being above that means you're above the average. Few notes. My rankings are about 50 days old because I did all this research and then never made the videos for them, but not a lot has really been changing and shifting around this offseason because teams aren't practicing as much and they're all restricted. After about 3 rounds, since I'm comparing to the VC, I like keepers more than picks because of how keepers shift value and the VC doesn't account for that. This year, I think more than the past, I'm also using my gut and how you performed in the past to kind of put a little narrative behind the rankings, which I think is fun. So since we're trying to smash a bunch of people into this one video, let's go right ahead. We're going to start with Swan, our champion last year, whose VC comes in at 307, just a tick above the average. Swan is the number 7 overall pick, and remember in VC world, where your first round pick is very important, and his draft board is pretty much unchanged. It looks like he swapped a 15 for a 10. The big keeper of note, of course, is Lamar Jackson. Picking him in the 15th round last year may have won Swan the league, and keeping him this year in the 13th is going to be why he is above average, despite not having any big draft pick advantages or any other keepers of note. DJ Chark's pretty good, but I'm putting Swan at the B+ tier, where I had him last year, making the playoffs, and if he has a good fortune in the draft like he did last year, no reason that Swan can't make another good run of it this year. Moving on to Brad Banas, the runner-up last year. His VC comes in at 279, a little behind Swan's, with the 8th overall pick, and also a pretty unchanged draft board, picking up a 13th. And dropped to 7th, it looks like, which probably is an explanation for the lower VC. Now, he has Aaron Jones, which is a very nice keeper, Jones being around a top 20 PPR guy. You can keep him at 65th overall. Like that a lot. AJ Brown, pretty good. Probably not keeping Tony Pollard, but I'd count those as pretty solid keepers I'm happy with. Still, I'm putting Banas in just out of the playoff bubble in the B tier. No reason, again, is just a guesstimate of where you are right now. But the missing the 7th and having a kind of back half of the first round pick puts him just out of it. Wes last year, of course, had his outlook was way up in the S tier. I made just for him with those crazy good keepers. Last year his VC was in the 340s. This year it's 371, by far the highest in our league. So the machine likes him very much, a lot because he has the number 1 overall pick. He swapped out 5ths and had to drop down a few picks there, but that shouldn't be a big difference when you have these kind of keepers. Kamara is the obvious one, being a top 5 pick that he can keep in the 4th round. Mahomes, Max very graciously gave him in that trade, which I think I understand where Max was coming from, but I think the rest of us were looking at this for what this year was going to be, that you're just giving Wes another powerful keeper. That's a big difference with Mahomes being a top 30 pick. And I think George Kittle is probably the smart 3rd keeper for Wes, even though there's a lot of hype around Miles Sanders right now. It's just keeping him in the 3rd. I mean, obviously Wes would try to move down in the 3rd if he was going to keep him, but Kittle's solid, trustworthy value and gives you a different position when you already have Kamara. Whichever one he goes with, Wes is easily in the A tier, projected to make the playoffs like I projected him last year. It would be strange for him to miss 2 years in a row with these great starting positions, but the reason I'm not giving Wes that A+ ranking or making him an S ranking this year is you got to put up. You didn't make the playoffs last year. consider this kind of a challenge to you. Show me what you got. Moving on to Marty. His VC is right about Swan's, a couple ticks higher at 309. Marty has the 4th overall pick, very nice, but he's missing his 3rd round pick. To kind of compensate for that, he picked up a 5th from Wes, which of course when Wes got the number 1 overall, added a little value to that. He's got an extra 6th as well. So Marty, no 3rd, but then all these extra between 5th and 7th rounds, and that's kind of how his keepers look too. He doesn't have anybody ranked above 50th, but he can keep them pretty late. Then they're all these 50 to 80 guys. So he's going to have a lot of players in that ranked 45 to 100 range. And he's going to have to look to build his team either by hitting somebody with high upside there or just having a lot of depth. I'm putting Marty behind Brad, even though he has the higher VC for that reason. I worry that without the heavy hitters, without the high-end guys, he's not going to be able to capitalize. But this is still a great progression for Marty from last year being ranked so low to start the season. He built himself up to a good position here, and he should be good for a couple of years based on the work he's put in. Next, on to Minney. Minney's VC is 328, and I think that's the 2nd highest in the league, which means this is definitely the best starting position Minney has had so far since we've been doing keepers. A lot of that, again, overall pick number 3. If you're in that top 5, the VC is going to heavily favor you. It looks like he added an extra 6th and 7th, kind of like Marty's. And not much else to say, missing some 12th and 13th there. The keepers Minney has are also really good in addition to those added mid-round picks. Kenyon Drake, ZCR has been around 14 to 18. You can keep him at 46. Probably not keeping DK Metcalf unless he can make a trade back there or the hype train goes off the rails. But Kareem Hunt, a lot of people are very hyped on, and he can keep him pretty late. That's another good one. I have Minney above Brad and Marty, but just on that cusp of the playoff B+ tier. And that's mostly because I don't think Minney's ever made the playoffs while he's been in the league. I think this is his best opportunity to, but I'm not going to pull an ESPN talking about the Cleveland Browns on him. He's got to have the one good season before I rank him higher than that. And last for this video is Stan with a VC of 260. I'm pretty sure is the lowest in the league. Overall pick 10, but it was smart for him to move back because he's probably using it to keep Michael Thomas. Missing his 5th, 6th, and 9th round picks though is going to hurt a bit. Michael Thomas, of course, being a top 3-4, the number 1 wide receiver off the board. I think you got to keep him. And then Mark Andrews, a good value. James Conner, a good value. But really, those are just kind of substituting in for those picks that he's missing. I have Stan fairly low in the C+ range. And Stan's a good fantasy football player, though. I wouldn't write him off just because of a bad start. So this is the end of the first video. We've got Wes, Swan, and Minney up higher. Wes is the only person in the A tier, so we'll add a few more of the top guns in the next video. Stan is the only person down low, so we'll add some of that too. It looks like I kind of did the middle in this video. Hope you like this format, and I'll be back very soon with the next one, maybe even later today. So, see ya.